to ask everyone to please close your eyes and imagine yourself walking through the vibrant streets of the Chinatown in your city. You see families attending the Spring Festival, you smell fresh dumplings in busy restaurants, and you're seeing grandparents playing mahjong at the park. Now, imagine it's all gone. And please open your eyes. Last year, I visited Washington, D.C.'s Chinatown for the first time. And they have a beautiful, huge gate at its entrance. And unfortunately, this historical landmark is the only visible proof to remind visitors that a thriving Chinatown once existed here. On the left-hand side of the gate is a Walgreens. On the right-hand side are AT&T and Planet Fitness. And I also found a dispensary store down the street with a Chinese translated sign that reads, "A grass store near me." Across the country, Chinatowns are disappearing at an alarming rate. According to the National Historical Trust, there have been 88 Chinatowns in the US, but only half of them still exist and remain active today. So the question is, why is this happening? And why does it matter to all of us? For over 160 years, Chinatowns have been serving as a symbol of strength and resilience of immigrant communities, a vibrant hub of culture, history, and delicious food. But these communities are facing unprecedented changes: rising rents, gentrification, shifting demographic and cultural erosion threatened not only buildings, but the people and tradition that make these communities unique. Today, Chinatowns stand at a crossroads. The story of many historical Chinatowns in the United States began when Chinese immigrants moved to Northern California during the Gold Rush period in 1840s. The first Chinatown in this country was established in San Francisco. And almost a decade later, thousands of Chinese laborers were recruited to build the Transcontinental Railroad. And as these Chinese immigrants settled in cities like New York, LA, and San Francisco, they started to form communities to support each other. Because during the construction of the railroad, they faced extremely dangerous working conditions, but were paid significantly less than their non-Chinese counterparts. And these communities that they formed to support one another became the early Chinatowns, serving as a social and economic support network for Chinese laborers facing discrimination, especially after the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. These communities represent the strength of immigrant communities in the face of exclusion and systematic racism. But they also represent resilience and adaptation. Chinatowns are traditionally defined as a place where a large majority of the population is Chinese. But this definition will later shift as more Chinatowns become increasingly multicultural and adapt to changes in society. Every Chinatown is different, and it has its own history. They each have their own beginning. Here in Las Vegas, our Chinatown started in 1995 when a developer opened a shopping plaza in close proximity to the Las Vegas Strip to serve the demand of the growing number of Asian tourists and gamblers who are looking for authentic Chinese food in Las Vegas in the 90s. And slowly, these centers became vibrant places, serving not only the residents in these neighborhoods, but the entire cities. But unlike the one in Las Vegas that is growing, many of the historical Chinatowns in other parts of the country are disappearing. The disappearance of these Chinatowns is driven by a combination of social, economic, and cultural forces. Some of them were completely destroyed on purpose. The one in Reno, Nevada, got burned to the ground twice. The second fire in 1908 was not an accident. The Reno Board of Health declared its Chinatown as a, quote, moral and physical threat, and burned it to the ground, leaving 150 residents homeless in the middle of the winter. And some of the historical Chinatowns that still exist today face challenges such as gentrification and displacement of longtime residents and small businesses. In the past 2 years, Philadelphia's Chinatown went through a series of protests to fight against a development proposal by the Philadelphia Sixers to build a brand new basketball arena located just 1 block away from their neighborhood. Residents were concerned that this arena would push out small businesses and erase their cultural vibrancy. And after a series of public hearings and closed-door negotiations and rallies organized by residents and grassroots organizations, earlier this year, the basketball team decided to cancel their development proposal. And this was not the first time that the Philadelphia Chinatown had faced such a threat. The construction of the Vine Street Expressway in 1970s cut through the middle of the neighborhood and divided the community. And for some of the other historical Chinatowns, like the one in New York City, that are located in urban areas, luxury condos, hotels, and chain stores are replacing affordable housing and mom-and-pop shops. The COVID-19 pandemic also accelerated closures of small businesses. For many of the immigrant business owners who don't speak English fluently, they did not know where to get assistance or how to advocate for their rights during the pandemic. Shifting demographics also caused this disappearance, as longtime residents are aging and younger generations are moving to the suburbs or other parts of the city. And as communities lose their longtime residents and small businesses, cultural practices like festivals, language schools, and community organizations are fading. In some cases, some of these historical Chinatowns are reduced to what's called a cultural shell, with symbolic elements like the archways and the Chinese translated store sign I showed you earlier, the one in Washington, D.C. It keeps the look, but the living, breathing community is gone. Last year, I attended a conference in New York City and met with representatives from 17 different Chinatowns across the US and Canada. And through our conversations and some of the lessons I learned from them, I discovered the deeper systematic challenges that went beyond the usual struggles. Every Chinatown battles with its own internal politics. We have politicians who show up only during election cycle, making empty promises. And we have community leaders who secure a seat at the table, but only to prioritize their personal gain over the collective good for the community. And these broken systems create distrust and division, making it even harder to advocate and unite the Asian American community. And it's a cycle of token efforts that look good on the surface, but fail to address the real needs of the community, leaving people to fend for themselves, while those in power gain the benefits of their struggles. So why does the disappearance of Chinatowns matter to all of us? Chinatowns are living museums of immigrant history. These neighborhoods have a past connection to American identity, where generations of immigrants built communities. When we lose these neighborhoods, it is part of a larger trend of affordable housing disappearing in urban areas, affecting not only Chinese or Asian American residents, but working class people of all backgrounds. These neighborhoods are built on generations of family-run businesses. And when we lose these neighborhoods, cities not only lose these businesses, but they also lose a network of community-driven, locally owned economic activity. This story is bigger than Chinatowns. This talk connects to a broader conversation that affects cities nationwide. It is also happening to Black, Hispanic, and working class neighborhoods across the country. The fight to preserve these places is to ensure that cities remain places where everyone can live, thrive, and work. So what can we do? What can we do as a community? This fight needs all of us. Whether you're a resident, a small business owner, an elected official, a community organizer, a volunteer, or simply someone who loves dim sums and cheers at lion dances. Please go visit your local Chinatown in your city, support these small businesses, and advocate for policies that support these communities, whether it's from historical preservation to community land trust, and amplifying grassroots movements like the one in Philadelphia. We also need to make sure that we document history, spread awareness, and make sure that the younger generations understand the significance of these places. The conference I attended last year in New York was hosted by a nonprofit called Welcome to Chinatown, founded by a group of young people. And last year, they opened a small business innovation center and has been using it as a community space to host events, workshops, and talks to share stories. The story of Chinatown is the story of America, of resilience, survival, and adaptation. It is a story that needs to be told. This fight is a fight for justice, for belonging, for preserving the spaces to tell our collective story. Chinatowns are not just where history happened. They're where history continues to be made. I recently read an article on the New York Times style magazine about a group of young Asian Americans in Manhattan fighting to save their neighborhood while reimagining it. This article made me think of the Chinese word for crisis, 危机, where danger and opportunity coexist in the same character. And that's the story of Chinatowns too, where tradition and innovation don't compete, they compose. The fight to preserve Chinatown isn't just about freezing a moment in time. That's not what preservation is. We need to ensure that these neighborhoods continue to evolve while staying rooted in the values and traditions that make it unique. The future of Chinatowns is in our hands, and our role isn't to resist change, but to shape it. ensuring that these neighborhoods keep their soul while making space for all that's yet to come. So let's not just preserve it, let's empower it to flourish. Thank you. 谢谢。